From AIT Studios in Abuja, Nigeria, this is the O&M Late Show with Obiora Hilo and Mamode Akuga.
Hello and welcome. It's about 11:05, and of course, time again for the O&M Late Show Tuesday night. My name is Mamode Akuga, and sure I missed you guys on Sunday, and I'm sure my tag team partner did as well. Obiora.
We missed you on Sunday. A few issues we couldn't handle. It broke our heart. Yes. It really did. It broke our heart that we're not able to be with you on Sunday, but we're here today to make it up. We're going to make it up whatever way we
missed
can.
out on Sunday. Yes, very quickly, we're going to be, our guests are all in the studios, but before then, something we must talk about, Obiora. Tomorrow, President Goodluck Jonathan goes to the Garden City of Port Harcourt for the presidential rally. And guess what? It will be taking place at the Adokie Amesimeka Stadium, Igruta, near the airport.
Controversial
the controversial stadium, which was built by this administration.
Yes.
I think PDP had applied to use the stadium, but the governor had turned down or had not approved it for them to use. Well, considering the fact that when APC also wanted to have their rally, it was done in that stadium. That didn't make it look nice for whatever reason. I'm not forgetting that the government represents the people, the tax-paying people of Rivers State. So, and everybody does not belong to one political party. So, I think generality of people think that the governor should have allowed PDP and its members and the president to use that stadium rancor-free.
Mahmoud, I agree with you. They had no reason to deny the PDP use of that stadium. It was given the impression of intolerance on the part of the Amechi-led government in Rivers State. Yes. But be that as it may, it's also very painful that the ruling party, the PDP, will take laws into their hands and take over the stadium with forcefully take over the stadium with security operatives. They could have gone to court.
Yes,
I mean that's the right thing to do. This is not Animal Farm where people just wake up and do what they like. Yeah. In where I come from, there's a proverb that two people don't get mad at the same time. You know, if you're having a bath and a madman rushes in, takes your clothes, and starts running on the street.
You don't run after him naked.
So I don't know. Yes. We just have to give peace a chance.
We have to give peace a chance.
Especially in Port Harcourt, in Rivers State.
Especially in Rivers State, yes. A lot of news about violence, election violence coming out of Rivers State. But we'll talk about that on the program tonight. We have...
No. Before we go, Mamode, before we go to our guests, today is a very special day all over the world. Today was the 70th year since the liberation.
That's right.
Yes, since the liberation of Auschwitz. Yes. That notorious Nazi concentration and extermination camp in Auschwitz. Yes. You know, 1 million and about 100 Jews. Prisoners died in that camp, and 98% of them were Jews. Yes. And today the world came together to say, enough is enough. Never again. Never again. Yes. No more of this. And I remember the president of the Jewish, what do they call it again? The Jewish Federation or so, saying that, look, let's watch it. This happened 70 years ago, but when we see things that happen in France and coming back home, we should stop all this killing. Because that's what, for me, today signifies. Because today is the International Holocaust Remembrance Day.
So the killings, whether in the name of politics, whether in the name of religion, whether in
never
again. So, like I said earlier on, that we're going to be talking about that, how to have a peaceful and violence-free election. We have with us a man who's been in politics for over 4 decades, a justice of the peace. He's going to be lending his voice to talk about how to achieve a violence-free elections. And we have in the studios all the way from Delta State, Chief Atuyota Ejugemre. He's already with us in the studios.
We also
and yes, we're bringing back our friend,
our controversial friend,
Joe Dauda.
Our followers on Twitter won't let us rest. Yeah. They keep saying, "Where is Joe? Where's the man that is going to tell us about the psychological makeup of both President Jonathan and General Muhammadu Buhari?" And then, just this past week, Soludo came on the news. Soludo said so many things about campaign promises and the inability of those that are making these promises to come out and tell us how they want to achieve it.
Especially economic promises.
Especially economic policies. So what did we do? We've brought some experts, economic experts, and people that really know about these things to talk about them. We have with us in the studio the former leader of the Trade Union Congress, Comrade Peter Sele. He's already seated with us in the studio. We also have Dr. Hussein Tukur Hassan of the Nasarawa State University.
Joining us later in the day.
Dr. Husseini is already in the studio, and we're also expecting another economist, Dr. Owo. He's on his way to the studio. So,
all right, it'll be all right. I think it's high time we get down to brass tacks. When we get back right now, we're going to be talking first to Joe Dauda on the O&M Late Show. Don't go away.
Good luck, Buhari, Jonathan.
He assumed office with a vision and a dogged determination to make a difference. Despite daunting challenges which could have destabilized our renewed march to greatness, he has remained steadfast in his quest to deliver the dividends of democracy to all Nigerians. All around us, evidence abound that he is working and enriching the lives of millions of our countrymen and women. Because he is humble and filled with love for our country, he has refused to be distracted. He is the first president of Nigeria to give a documented account of his achievements, and these are yet to be disputed. If he has been able to do so much in just 4 years, let's imagine what he can do with 4 more. Think Nigeria. Vote good luck. This message is brought to you by the Wind of Hope.
Yes, and now we get down to our first interview today, which will be on the sofa today. And of course, by popular demand, we're bringing back part 2 to finish up our discussions with Joe Dauda, the author of the book 2015, Jonathan Buhari, The Psychological Perspective.
Yeah. Joe, good to see you.
Thank you very much. Good to see you too.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
Yes,
and I hope this recent popularity everywhere in the social media and all that, I hope you're enjoying it, you're basking in it.
Well, it's been stressing me. It's been stressing me because people want me to say something. Do you get? So which I can't say.
Anyway, Joe, you're here.
Yeah,
and,
here with us already.
We've not had all the time to talk about it. So
we'll continue
from where we stopped.
Yeah,
from where we stopped.
Yes, where we stopped.
I must do a crash brief.
Yes,
which was that last time we were talking about 4 temperaments. We don't have time to go through them.
No, yes.
You would have to look at the book maybe to look at them. So you have the sanguine, the super extrovert, followed by the choleric. Then you have the phlegmatic, and then you have the melancholy.
Just for those that were not with us here on that day.
Yes.
Describe Jonathan for us and describe Buhari.
Good.
You know how you classify them.
You're just classifying.
Yeah, based on these temperaments, I said the other day that in real life we have people in blends. They occur in blends. You don't have a pure sanguine, pure whatever. So Jonathan is a phlegmatic sanguine. In his own case, it's a rare case because he has 70% phlegmatic, 30% sanguine. Buhari, according to my own analysis, is 50-50 male claw. Now, I'm sure the biggest question is how does this affect leadership?
Of course.
Which is what we're trying to do.
That's where we started from, yeah, sure.
So the time is so short, but we can still do justice. The point is that one of the strengths of the phlegmatic is personal equanimity, very calm and all that. I was talking about my brother. You remember? That was where we stopped. Yeah. I have a younger brother who is in his final year now. When he was younger, and he will do something wrong, and I'll beat him, and he wouldn't even cry. He would just be looking at me, and I'll almost be begging him to cry. Let me get some reaction. So this yes, let me know that I have beaten you. He's just calm and all that. So the phlegmatic is that kind of person. He is never overly depressed, neither is he overly excited. He's just calm. So President Goodluck is such a person. You would notice that we've had crisis since he came to power, but everything he has achieved so far has been in spite of the crisis. I mean, it's a lot of stress for you to have people being bombed here and there. Psychologically, it really distracts you. Yeah. I mean, you know that. So whatever he has done, and then writing this book forced me to realize that he has actually done some things. The schools, the universities, the Almajiri schools, the roads, so many things. It's just that the emotive
What's the downside to the phlegmatic?
The downside to the phlegmatic should be the phlegmatic is disinclined to prognosing into people's affairs naturally. And since there is no meaningful way to supervise without prognosing, so you get to see that.
Are they good communicators?
They are not. They are not necessarily good communicators, phlegmatics, because, like I said, they are lukewarm. Do you understand? So they cannot communicate their empathy easily. Many people don't realize that President Jonathan could be agonizing about the Boko Haram thing, but you see him almost as if he's always calm. It is the phlegmatic nature, yes, that you are seeing. So this government has had three challenges. If you ask me, the Boko Haram, for me, some people will say something else. For me, it's Boko Haram, corruption, and power. Yeah. That's if you ask me. But you see, you have to look at it. For you to be fair to him, you have to assume. For you to judge Jonathan fairly, you have to assume that there was no Boko Haram for all these 5 years. It means for any road he has done, if he has done a kilometer of road, he could have done 3. If he had built 10 schools, he might have done 12. So, because people have not accused this government of not doing enough, they have said they are giving defense too much. Are you there? So yes. What do you want a civilian to do? I mean, Mahmoud, you are in power and there's a real crisis. You would want to give the military what they want. Yes. So on that account, there's really nothing much you can do. And, he has alleged that there are saboteurs. And we have it on record that people have threatened the government that they are going to render it ungovernable. So when you look at these factors, you realize that it's not really easy to deal with. Okay. And then...
But let's talk about Buhari now. People see him as, strict, disciplinarian, a no-nonsense person, man who abhors corruption. That's the kind of picture a lot of Nigerians have. Yes. Merciless too. That's the picture a lot of people have about Buhari.
Is that what you also see with your categorization?
Yeah.
Is it in sync?
It's in sync with his temperament because Buhari, like I said, is male claw. Now, the male temperament, if you look at the book, the male is a serious introvert. But now you blend it with the choleric. So there is the hot side and then there's the cool side. If you look at Buhari, you see him like a cool person. But when you get a taste of him, you probably will change your mind. So everything Buhari did during his 20 months, it's in sync with that temperament. They tend to they tend to do a few things and they tend to do it, they tend to attempt perfection, if you like, which some people will perceive as extremism. Yes. Do you understand? Yeah. If you were in school and you got 80 over 100, but you insist on getting 100 over 100, you know what that would mean, the kind of pressure to put on you and the pressure to put on everybody also. So melancholy, this is the melancholy part of Buhari that seeks the perfection, Do you get?
Yeah.
And then the choleric part pushes it, and so it makes him. You could say you sympathize with his motives, but when he goes about it, it's really
okay. A lot of people would say, okay, Joe writes a book. What parameters did you use? What informed? What competence? What capacity do you have to categorize these men?
Okay,
you know, and how did you? I mean, was it research? How did you get to these conclusions?
Yes, very easy. We are living in the information age, and I am a writer. I could write about health, medicine, anything I want to. The information is out there. I took an interest in this issue of temperament almost 20 years ago, and I realized that it's a tool for human relations. If I'm relating with Mahmoud and I know that Mahmoud is a melancholy, I take his words seriously. If Mahmoud says, Joe, I don't like what you did, because he is a male and males use their words carefully, I'm going to take it serious. If I'm dealing with you.
Can you imagine?
Because
he wasn't even bothered.
I won't bother. He's a sanguine. He's a happy person. You know, he doesn't notice. Happy-go-lucky. You know, and all that. So it's a tool of human relation. It's a tool of human relation, and it's very important in leadership. The sort of leadership, see, Nigerians cannot eat their cake and have it. The sort of leadership you're getting from Jonathan is a function of his temperament. There are strengths and weaknesses. You can't superimpose Buhari's regime or reign with Jonathan. There are some advantages in a Jonathan administration. I mean, I wrote a book. There's no fear, there's nothing and all that. You know, there are some things that will be missing when Buhari is in power. I mean, people got to know that. So are you getting my point? You can't eat your cake and have it. These men are different.
No, but you know, strengths and weaknesses on both sides.
You know, I did ask you. You have done research and you came out with this book. Yeah. Which of these men, based on their temperament, is good for this period that Nigeria has found itself?
I sense a big ditch, and I'm going to avert it. I'm not going to fall into that ditch at all. So now the thing is, the truth is, I said something in an earlier interview. I said, good luck Jonathan's temperament is good for democracy. Somebody wanted to eat me raw. What I meant, and let me give it, as an advantage to your viewers. What I meant is that, you see, democracy was designed to be a participatory kind of government. Do you understand? That was how it was designed. It was designed to be government on 3 legs. Yeah. So the phlegmatic, it doesn't have the energy to even poke-nose into any other arm of government. So there tends to be there's this tenet of democracy they call what? Separation of powers. Separation of powers. It works well with a phlegmatic temperament. But having said that, it doesn't mean I am not saying that the advantage of the choleric, that's the Buhari one, is that he's a natural leader. Really, the choleric person volunteers for leadership. You don't have to. If there's a crisis now, it is the choleric in the room that would want to find out how do we deal with it
and lead every other person.
So there are strengths, there are weaknesses. You can never put anybody and put him in the most important thing is that we are a product of nature and nurture. So no matter the temperament you have, your principles, the kind of education you got, and your belief system, it's going to affect how you finally become. Obiora is not just sanguine and all that. He's something else. Yes.
Okay, Joe, we have to leave it there. We thank you so much. Second time around.
Maybe there'll be a third time around.
For coming to
if you will allow me.
You
know the book is free and so many people would want it. A number so that they can send text
messages. You're not selling the book?
No, the books are free. I want my opinion out there. It's free. So if we could give a number, so anybody that wants the book, they just send the text and then we'll find a way to give it to them.
Okay, I think we'll work on that and we'll see how we can put it on the show so that message can go out.
Thank you
so much, Joe.
Thank you, Joe.
You're giving me my cup.
You're not getting another cup today.
All right.
You remember Mamode warned you.
I know. Thank you so much.
Okay, we'll take a break, and when we return, we'll talk about 2015 non-violence.
A man's best friend doing a wonderful dance there with the owner. Wonderful things you see on the internet. Well, we're going to be talking now about non-violence in elections, and we have with us in the studios Chief Atuyota Ejugemre, Justice of the Peace, and of course a politician who's been in politics for over 4 decades.
Hello. You're welcome, sir.
How are you?
You're welcome, sir.
Thank you.
That's it.
Thank you.
Yes, Chief Atuyota, you are a Justice of the Peace. You've been in politics for over 4 decades, contested from the Awolowo days. Tell me, every time we get close to an election, there's always, talk of violence, the drums of war beat harder. People talk about, if I don't win, there will be trouble, there will be crisis. And, the tension is palpable. For you, what does all this signify?
Mahmoud and Mr. Biora, I think I must thank you immensely for this wonderful opportunity. I think it's a moment of reflection for a great nation as Nigeria. We must sit back and ask ourselves basic questions, whether it is worth the trouble for people to beat the drums of war whenever elections are around the corner. Nigeria is primus inter pares, is the lion of Africa. And I say this without any qualms of conscience. Because if you don't have peaceful elections, the after effect is usually very traumatic. We heard of things like Operation Wete in the West. Recently, after the 2011 elections, Kaduna and parts of the north were set ablaze. In terms of we can't calculate the quantum of human beings and money that we have lost as a people. People ask me, why do you always appear in this apparel? I see Nigeria as one unit. I went to school, Federal Government College, where we were taught to regard the whole country as our constituency. So why must people think of violence? Democracy is a participatory government.
Yes.
And so our duty is to elect people we consider as suitable to give the deliverables, development, and to move us to the next level. But any moment there is the indication there's going to be election, both in the rural communities and in the urban areas, people are already bracing up. If we don't win, there must be trouble. As a Justice of the Peace, I am calling on all Nigerians that this moment is a moment of reflection. If some people in faraway America have predicted that Nigeria in 2015 will be balkanized and will be like another Yugoslavia, I am saying that it's a moment of reflection for us to say we have no other country but Nigeria. And so peace is what should be the watchword for all of us.
It is easy for someone to say, oh, your household is going to have trouble.
Yes.
But I believe that a prediction does not come true, except those that have been predicted for make it possible.
That's true.
Mahmoud said you've been around and you've seen it all. Of course, you've taken us back to weighty days and all that. Why do we have these tensions? Why?
I think it's greed. People are not coming out to serve. They are thinking of what they can grab. So politics apparently has become a profession, and people see it as a profession. So it's a do or die affair.
So politics shouldn't be a profession.
It should not be a profession.
People should have a profession.
Exactly.
And do politics part-time.
I am of the opinion that even the national and state assemblies should be part-time. In that way, you as a professional, an engineer, a doctor, and whatever, wanting to give service to your country, you already have something you are doing. But the urge to contribute to the development of your country propels you to move forward and, along with others, raise the nation to the next level. And so I do not think that politics should be taken as a profession. You see, even at the primaries, the idea of people accepting defeat
is difficult.
It's difficult. If you fail a primary, you must either go to the tribunal or you go to the court. It's a game.
Or you declare yourself a winner.
A winner, exactly.
Or you go to the next party.
Yes, in fact, you have parallel primaries.
Yes. Or you move to another party.
Move to another party.
Yeah, so,
because there's room for cross-carpeting.
Yes.
And
but how do we put all this aside and grow to become, you know, a nation that can practice democracy peacefully?
And putting Nigeria first.
Yes.
Yes, I think the problem we have is the background, where a child is coming from. We have got the culture of the military that intervened in the politics of this country. And so, violence. Certain things have been played on the television, AIT, a number of times now in recent times. And we see how the rule of the military is. Democracy is we come together. It's a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. That is democracy. That's the Greek definition. So, what do? Let us love ourselves. The Bible and the Quran preach peace and love. We must love our neighbor as ourselves. It is only when we love ourselves that we can love our country. There are people in Greek and Roman times, they say pro patria est mori. It is sweet to die for one's fatherland. Die in the sense that you are going to lay yourself in whatever circumstances, like the soldiers who are fighting the insurgency in the Northeast. Right. They are ready to lay down their lives for their country. Because it is sweet and fitting to die for your country. But here, people know, people are afraid of death because of amount of wealth they have amassed, which they have not kept here for Nigerians to utilize, but they have stacked up in foreign banks abroad, so that their children yet unborn will have a feel of it. They will never be poor.
Do we need to establish a school for political orientation? Probably where politicians have to go to before they become politicians.
I think, I buy that idea that, yes, that we must have a school for politicians because anybody can just jump up.
And give them some civic education.
Yes, exactly. And want to become politician because it is now a profession.
Now, but Chief, there's been talk of some people who are wary of the atmosphere and what is happening now. People have talked about the possibility of moving the elections a little bit forward, a postponement, because of the tension in the land. How would you relate to this?
I think there are two schools of thought on this subject. One, that there should be a substantial shift on the timetable of INEC. Maybe up to June or thereabouts, say 6 months. There's another school of thought which believes that they can shift this slightly to about April. In whatever way you look at it, you cannot conduct elections in a violent atmosphere, in a situation where people are going to be disenfranchised. INEC has a problem because what they are doing now, unlike what we did when we were in the Electoral Commission, the thing is very sophisticated. You're talking about data, you're talking about PVC, you're talking about, the whole thing is computerized. And most of the staff they are using, they are ad hoc staff who they have not been properly trained, and they go into the various communities. They are subject to all sorts of travails and so on, and challenges. So my personal feeling, take the Northeast for instance, Borno, which is my second home because I am a member of the royal family of Borno State for life. And I feel my blood runs when I hear that people are being killed in that place every day. Borno and Yobe were virtually one state. Some of the local governments are not accessible now. So whom are you going to send as electoral officers to go and conduct elections in Borno, in Yobe, and Adamawa?
So are you supporting a little delay?
A little delay will be in our strategic and corporate interest.
Okay, Chief, we'll leave it there. We'll leave it there. Thank you so much for coming on the O&M Late Show.
Yes.
And we have a little gift for you. I was a guest on the O&M Late Show. Please keep it on your table.
I will treasure it. God bless you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief, for coming.
God bless you.
All right, you're still on the O&M show. We'll be right back after this time. Don't go away.
Thank you.
I am Mamode Akuga. For almost 3 decades, I have been involved in broadcast journalism, with the better part of that time in the gathering and production of news and news programs. I'm proud to have pioneered weekday morning news talk show on Nigerian television, first with AM TV Live on DBN television and later with Kakaki on AIT.
I am Obiora Ilo. Over 30 years ago, I started my career at Radio Nigeria. Over these long years, I've presented several programs and interviewed hundreds of guests, men and women, the big stars and the not well known, the rich and the poor, politicians, movie stars, journalists, the good, the bad, and the ugly, as they say. You just name them. I've also covered events across the world, from Europe to America, from Asia and back to Africa, bringing first-class reports.
Now, together with Obiora, I will be coming to your screens 2 nights a week, Tuesdays and Fridays, with the O&M Late Show.
Mamode and I will be bringing our decades of experience to bear on our new talk show, the O&M Late Show.
In our careers, we have blazed many trails, and we are thrilled and ready to set new records with nighttime television. The O&M Late Show,
your late night catch-up.
Well, Obiora, we've gotten to that point in the program where we have to talk a little bit about the promises the presidential candidates are making, and of course the response by Charles Soludo in the newspapers yesterday, after somebody had earlier written a piece in "Where is Charles Soludo?" and he responded
that he was back. You know, growing up, I remember an uncle of mine saying that you just wait for the politicians. When the elections come, they tell you they're going to bring down the moon. Well, we have joining us now the former president of TUC, Comrade Esele Peter, and we also have Dr. Hussaini from the Nasarawa State University. Gentlemen,
Peter, how are you? Good evening.
Good to have you, Peter.
Thank you very much.
Doc, you're welcome.
Welcome. Peter, consider. Yeah.
Please sit down.
All right.
Yeah. So my uncle said, when the elections come, because my uncle believes that the politicians come once in 4 years. So he keeps telling us, don't worry, if the roads are not fixed, they will soon come and tell us they're going to build even road on water. Let's talk seriously now. In that article by the former CBN governor, he did talk about the promises of the parties, the different candidates, not being, put in proper perspective, if you're saying that you're going to provide 20 million jobs, for instance, or 2 million jobs, for instance, or 25,000 jobs, for instance, how do you want to do it? What are the implications of these promises? One, our dollar is, as of today, was 210 naira to a dollar. The oil revenue is down, and that's our key income earner. How do we relate? Let's start with you, Peter.
You see, politicians all over the world are the same. They will make all manners of promises. But what the difference between the type in Nigeria and the ones you have in the West are the institutions. This is the key where the media comes in. In other parts of the world, you have the media, they will do what they call fact check. If the president says this is what he's going to do, and they will go after him to make sure he's doing what he had agreed to do. And then you also have whoever is aspiring for a political office, whatever he says, everybody goes around to check it out. I'll give you an example. When I was Pengassim president, Tony Blair was making a campaign at a particular time, and he said he was visiting a city in Aberdeen, and he said he was going to create 1,000 jobs for that city, and they were like, where is it coming from? He said Bonga Oil Field in Nigeria. He's able to point directly where
the job was coming from.
So what you have here, that is not what we have here. And when you are talking about, take for example the price of crude, we all know that the problem between the Saudis, Americans, Russians, that's the Russian invasion of Ukraine, on one hand, because the West is going to go after Russia for doing that.
So and they're going after them.
Yes. So and the major source of revenue for the Russians happens to be oil. Now, the Saudis want to maintain their dominance in the Middle East because the Iranians are coming too. If the nuclear research by the Iranians, if that is the nuclear power negotiation that is going on, if it favors the Iranians, then the Iranians in 18 months says they will hit 5 million barrels per day. And the Saudis don't want that. So you have geopolitics that is playing out in the Middle East, which is going to affect us. But now I expect somebody to come up and say, okay, fine, this is what is playing out in the Middle East. It's going to play out over a period of time. Now, what are we going to do? What is going to happen to our refineries? How do we make sure we take ourselves out of all of this problem? But you're not hearing anything like that. So what we also, every one of us, politicians, if they know that they can lie themselves into an office. Yes. But if they know they will get away with it, they'll continue to do it. But it is when you and I are now holding them to their promises that you said this is what you were going to do 4 years ago. Have you done it? And then we say, no, you didn't keep to your promises. So we either decide to give you red card after the 4 years, or we'll give you green card.
All right, let's Doc, you know, he talked about holding the politicians accountable.
Yes.
Now, when we hear the promises, whether it's from President Jonathan, whether it's from Muhammadu Buhari, you just hear that we will deliver 2 million jobs here, we will build this, we will build that. What they are not telling us really is how they're going to raise the money to be able to do that. How do we even have access to holding them accountable?
This is a serious problem, especially in developing countries. But before I talk about that, let me look at the promises, the background of the promises. You know, promises in developed or advanced democracy arrive at from the manifesto of the party as well as from the ideological orientation of a party or an individual. But that's lacking here. The parties have manifesto. They may have manifesto which at the beginning, at the time of founding the parties, this as a manifesto. But it never reformed, reorganized, and that there is no program that you can easily say, if I go to a particular political party's office, this is what they do. No. What we have is that individual candidates or party at all levels, just imagine what they will do in the office, and just those things become promise, and they start pronouncing them. that this is what I want to do, this is what I want
this
to do.
agenda or that agenda.
Yes. But the basis of any promise is for you to analyze what is in government, which is very difficult to find out. And how do I actualize those things that I find? What is the gap? And could I fill the gap, or can I do something to improve the existing situation? These are things that are lacking. Let me give you an example. Even within government, we have in ministries and departments a unit which we call research and evaluation. Why do they exist? They exist because that very unit, that government does not have necessary information to pursue certain program unless researches are conducted, information are gotten, and plans are made. The implication of the plan, political-wise, social-wise, the cost implication, the duration, and so on and so forth. These are what government rely upon in their program. That's when you are talking within government. Someone outside the government who wants to get an office will just promise you manna and salwa.
No, but Doc, yes, the issue actually is holding them accountable. Now, let me bring something out from the Soludo article.
Yes.
He said even as a teenager, young man growing up, yes. He listened to Chief Obafemi Awolowo between 78 and 79, before the elections. And he said he was promising free education.
Yes.
And they asked him, how are you going to deliver free education? He went down as far as explaining the reduction in coffee or tea in the offices, and things like that. So, in other words, he's been able to do his calculation and say, look, this is where I will raise this money to finance this. And that can be explained to the electorate. We're not hearing that. It's the same thing we hear President Jonathan say at all the rallies.
Yes.
You want your future, the young Nigerians and all that. It's the same thing we hear Muhammadu Buhari say in all the rallies.
Yes.
No difference. How do we get them to explain to us how they want to raise money?
There is a
taxes or what?
The taxes, how much do we even raise as taxes? All the states of the Federation, including the government of the Federation, rely solely on revenue from the oil sector. Now, if we look at the trend, I mean the trend of income and expenditure of the nation, right from the Federation, the government of the Federation, through states government, we find out that most of the income that's spent come from a single source, isn't it? And that if anybody is coming, considering the level of taxation and the income that we get from the tax, that will be difficult for any politician to explain to you how he will do that. But I believe that if we can reorganize the spending structure of the federal government as well as the state, we can find idle money that are wasted. For instance, institutions that just exist to pay salary, there are many of them. For instance, if we look at the agencies, which we call here parastatal, how many are they in just a single ministry? What is their mandate? What they do? We can do that, but I don't think politician thinking is going towards that direction. What we should look at is that the promises are there and they will continue to be there. But how do we hold them accountable is also another important aspect which we lack in this country.
Okay, let me come to you, Peter, with a specific question. You were in the labor union for a long time. The president says he would provide 2 million jobs. Is it practicable? Can the economy support it? What we see with power, what we see with privatization, can it produce those jobs? They have said we want to do it this way and that way. Is it possible?
One thing is very clear. The president needs to tell us how he intends to achieve it. Yeah. Because if the president says he wants to create 2 million jobs, probably he's the president. Probably he has information on certain things he wants to do that I'm not aware of. So the onus is on the president to explain what he intends to do, with how he intends to create 2 million jobs. Are those jobs on the shelf that you just picked them up? Those are some of the questions we now need to ask ourselves. And earlier, you also made reference to how do we hold them accountable.
Yes.
By having this discussion on O&M, you're also trying to hold them accountable. There are people listening to this program, people watching you, you're also trying to hold them accountable. You are making people to be aware of their rights. So if they are having town hall meetings, people are able to ask them that. There was a gubernatorial candidate in one of the states in the South, and he said he was going to make sure if he's elected as the governor, he was going to make sure that no youth earn more than 20,000 naira a month. And then from somewhere in the crowd, and the person said, how? And the person said, how? He said, don't worry, when we get there, we'll get it done.
That's not convincing.
At all. But you notice that at least one person said how. That person would have made other people to now start asking questions. How is he actually going to achieve this? So it's when we start coming to the fore, we are making progress by having discussions like this. We are making progress by Soludo writing his article, because everybody is now also thinking. And then one thing that I've always said is that politicians learn from the people. Once they notice that the people have moved to, we all have moved to a new level, they need to also move. And most times politicians are the last people to leave the train station. Because when the society have moved, that is when they now move. No politician move willingly. You can also, even as high as America, at the particular time Obama was anti-gay. And when he noticed that the tide was going to turn against him in election, he became pro-gay.
Yes.
So politicians are same everywhere. But the key, I keep saying it, the key, whether it's in America, is in Europe, anywhere, is the various institutions. And the media is the pillar. The media is the pillar in a democracy. Because if the media is shining the spotlight, you are conducting an interview, you are interviewing a governor, interviewing a president, you may have the opportunity of doing that. And you now ask him, how do you intend to achieve all of these goals? Okay, we talked about power, privatization of power. I happen to be one of those who negotiated that power privatization. At the end of the day, there are challenges all around it. We expect jobs to be created, numbers of jobs to be created. Are we there now? No. How long will it take us to get there?
Nobody knows.
Simple. So what you now do is, government is all about process. It's not ad hoc. My worry most times is that Mr. A comes into power, he moves up to point A, and Mr. B comes in, everything is, and a fresh one is started. So what you have is that you have abandoned projects littering all over the country.
Doc,
yes.
Buhari says, I want to change everything.
Yes.
How does he want to do? Because all we hear is change, change, change.
Yes. We need to know his plan. He needs to explain to Nigerians how he will do it.
Because saying change is not change, actually.
Yes, it's not. It's creating hope. And this is what is lacking. And this is what politicians are trying to take.
They're very good at creating hope.
Yes, create hope, confidence for the majority of frustrated people, so that they will see the future with brightness, and therefore will associate with your ideas. But one important thing is that all institutions, as Mr. Peter said, must be institutions that build process and procedure that will be sustainable, which is lacking mostly in developing countries, especially in Africa, where personality determine how institutions operate, rather than institution determining how personality operates. Take, for instance, the violation of laws, constitution at will by our politicians. That tells you the institutions are not strong enough, and therefore need to be strong enough to ensure that those who are coming in must respect the institutions and do the right thing. Therefore, if an institution has a mandate, and its mandate is to fulfill a promise made by a particular politician, it has its own process and procedure. That politician has to bring his idea about how he wants to achieve, and that institution mandate is to ensure that those things are put in place and get to the right position and achieve, which is very, very lacking. Therefore, we need, as part of our enlightenment, to build institutions and ensure that those institutions operate within the rules and that they fulfill their mandate, and they should be held accountable too. if we hold those institutions accountable and they are doing the right thing, then nobody comes with make empty promises and get
fulfilling them. Let's give Peter the last word here. The Soludo article, for me, nice write-up, but painted a very bleak future, economically speaking, for Nigeria. He graded the current administration F9 in the economic programs and said, look, he was practically unimpressed with what Buhari had to offer in terms of economic promises. So for him, the future is bleak, whichever way it bends. I don't know whether you have a sense of that. You feel that way too?
Yeah, I think I also did similar interview, I think in November, sometime last year in the Sun, and I said, yes, we are going to have a tough 2015. But again, it's also an opportunity. No matter how tough things are, it's also an opportunity if you can seize the moment. So what is left for us now is for us to look at the country and be very sincere with ourselves. Whoever emerges as president has to look at the economy and say, this is where we are, this is what I think we need to do to take us to the promised land. If we need to tighten our belt, but the president or whoever is leading also have to tighten his. Because most problem we've always have is that the president comes and says, we are going to have austerity measures, you people need to tighten your belt. But those in power don't.
And they're buying new private jet.
Yes.
All right. We have to leave it there now. Gentlemen, well, as is customary now, we'll present you with our monk, guest on the O&M show.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. All right, this is where we draw the curtain on the O&M show for tonight. I want to thank our guests for finding time to join us. I am Mahmoud Aku.
I am Obiora Ilo from Abuja, Nigeria. Friday night is another date, 11 p.m. Don't forget.